Hey everyone, today we are making these darling little sweet potato whoopie pies. I think it's a recipe you're gonna love, so let me show you how to do it. So here is everything we need to get our batter going for our sweet potato whoopie pies. And the first thing we're gonna start with is we're gonna cream the butter and the sugars together. So in our mixer with a paddle attachment, we are going to put 12 tablespoons or 3/4 of a cup of butter into our mixer. And to that, we are adding 1/4 cup of packed light brown sugar, but if you only have dark, that's fine too. I'm just gonna break that up a little bit. And then here in this bowl, I have 1 cup of ginger sugar that I mixed up. I mix up a batch of ginger sugar and just have it on hand. I think the ginger really makes a nice flavor in here. If you don't have ginger sugar, that's okay. You can use just regular granulated sugar. So into the bowl we go. Uh-oh, kind of lost some. Here we go. And then I'm just going to, I'm sorry guys, I just noticed I had a little bit more in there. Don't wanna lose any of that delicious ginger sugar. So we're just gonna get that going on a low speed and get that incorporated. And while that is getting nicely blended, we are going to get our dry ingredients together. So here I have 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. To that, I am adding 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder into our flour. We're adding 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then here we have 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And then also we need 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. So I'm just freshly grinding that in. There we go. Now, if you weren't using ginger sugar, I would go ahead at this point and add maybe 1/2 teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of ginger to get that ginger flavor in there. But now I'm just gonna whisk all of my spices and my flour together and just get that ready, have that kind of set aside for when our butter and liquid ingredients are ready. So let's give this a look and let's see how we're doing here. Let's scrape down the bowl and just make sure, you know, whenever you're blending butter with sugar or anything like that, you always want to scrape down the sides of the bowl. You always want to get up under, because a lot of times the mixer doesn't quite reach some of that butter that's down at the very bottom of our bowl. So I want this, I'm just gonna let this go for a few more seconds. Just get that really nicely blended and creamed. Okay, looking good. Now, while it's still on low, I'm gonna add our eggs, and we're gonna do one at a time and get them incorporated. And if I didn't say it, 2 eggs, you guys. So let me turn it up just a little bit. Get that one in. Let's scrape down again. Get it off our spatula. There we go. And then we can add the other one. We're gonna let that mix in, and then as that gets all mixed in, which it's looking good, I'm gonna turn us off again, and to that we are adding 1 fairly decently packed cup of sweet potato. If you prefer pumpkin, that's a good swap out as well for this. And I actually am using the canned sweet potatoes, but I mean, if you wanted to bake some sweet potatoes, that would taste awesome too. And then just get them all, you know, mixed up before you then add them for your whoopie pies. So into the bowl goes our sweet potato mixture. And now we're gonna mix that to get that totally combined. That looks good. But I also, at this point, just want to add some vanilla. I don't know if you guys know this, but to make your own vanilla, it's really pretty easy. Just put a bunch of vanilla beans in to a jar and fill it with vodka. And then put it away in a pantry for, you know, maybe 2 months or so in a dark spot, and you have your own vanilla. It's delicious, and it's just easy. So there's a little tip. So I'm putting about a teaspoonful of vanilla in our batter. Get that mixed up. It looks a little grainy, if you can see that, but don't worry. There's nothing to be concerned about, because it'll all get incorporated in as we put in our dry ingredients. So now we're ready to combine our dry with what I have here is a 1/2 cup of heavy cream, and we're gonna alternate, you know, 1/3 of the flour, and then 1/2 of the cream, another 1/3. Do it slowly so it gets nicely incorporated in. And for this first bit of flour, I always find it easier just to lift my mixer arm and get that in this way. It keeps me from having flour all over my counter, so it gets in the bowl a little bit easier. And then we're just gonna turn this on low. And we see the flour fly a little bit, but that's okay. And there, so the flour's incorporated. We don't want to overmix. And now I'm going to put about 1/2 of my heavy cream in. And while the mixer is going, I'm going to add another 1/3 of my flour mixture. And then I'm going to add the rest of my cream. And then I am now adding the rest of my flour mixture in. And before I give it its final little whirl, I want to just scrape the sides. Again, scrape underneath. Make sure everything is getting mixed in evenly and nicely. So let me reach over here and get that, and then get down under again. There we go. So one last little whirl. Excellent. So now we're just gonna get our beater off here and get our batter scraped off. This is such a nice batter, you guys. I mean, I can smell the spices, but as far as now creating our whoopie pies, it's soft, it'll hold its shape, but it still is just nice and creamy and a great consistency. So let's take this off. And every time you take something out of the mixer, I always like to just kind of, again, scrape down the sides, give it one last mix, just so you can check to make sure that everything has been nicely mixed together. And I think we're good here. So now, this will make different sized whoopie pies. It's up to you what you want to do with it. Today, I want to make little mini ones. So let me just get this out of the way a little bit. And what we have here is, I've got my cookie sheet already prepared. I've got a piece of parchment paper on the cookie sheet. My oven is preheating to 350 degrees right now. And so because this is a soft batter, sometimes it gets a little hard to scoop. So what I'm going to show you are a few of the little mini size, and this is like a tablespoon size scoop that we're going to do. And so the easiest way, or the trick that I learned while doing many of these recently, in fact, is so you make sure you really scoop the batter into your scooper. You want it nice and firm in there, but then sometimes it's still a little bit difficult getting out. So I just kind of wet my fingers a little bit, and that way, as I'm releasing, I can coax it out a little bit with my wet finger, and it doesn't, I'm not standing here like, oh my God, this is never coming out. And it helps to keep the shape, because with whoopie pies, you know, we want to at least be able to match up as closely as possible, a top and a bottom. And so we'd like them to be as uniform as possible. So see, scoop and really, you know, pack it in there. And then as you're releasing your scoop, just take your little moistened finger and kind of ease it out. And so I'm gonna finish the rest of these and get ready to pop it into my 350 degree oven. These guys will take anywhere from 8 to 9 minutes. If you're doing bigger ones, obviously that's going to take more time. I know the big whoopie pies that are maybe like 3 tablespoons in a scoop, those are gonna take you anywhere from 18 to 20 minutes. But play around with it, see what you like, and I'll meet you back when we're ready to do our marshmallow buttercream filling. So we had our sweet potato whoopie pies in the oven for about 9 minutes. Here they are out of the oven, and they've cooled, and now we're ready to make our marshmallow buttercream filling. So we're gonna start with this. It seems like a lot, you guys, but after all, it's delicious, wonderful, sweet filling. This is a pound of confectioner's sugar. And I like to weigh my confectioner's sugar when I can, only because it makes a little bit less mess than trying to scoop with a cup and get it in. But anyway, we have a pound of confectioner's sugar. We have 2 sticks or 16 tablespoons of butter. And I'm just gonna get that right into the mixer with our paddle attachment. There we go. And to our butter and our sugar, which I'm going to add last, we are adding a container. It's 7 ounces of marshmallow fluff, which gives us that wonderful, delicious marshmallow flavor, which is perfect with sweet potatoes or our whoopie pies. So it's a little messy, but I'm going to do the best I can and get this all out of the container. because I don't want to lose any of my delicious marshmallow fluff here. Okay, I think that's good. Try to get it off the sides. And now we also have here, I've got about 3 tablespoons of milk. I'm not going to add all of the milk. I want to see what my consistency of my icing does, and I'm going to use this to kind of either loosen it up if I need a little bit more creaminess in my filling. And then I also have a little bit of salt. I'm not using all of this salt, but it sometimes helps when you have such a sweet icing or filling. You add just a pinch of salt. It helps to balance all of that. And then our handy dandy friendly vanilla, which what I'm gonna do first is just get this creaming together. Get our marshmallow and our butter creaming a bit to get that all nicely mixed up. And I mean, it's beautiful. Room temperature butter, a little bit of marshmallow fluff. Looks pretty and mixes up beautifully. So I'm just gonna add, I like a pretty strong vanilla flavor to this, so I'm going to add about a tablespoon of our vanilla here, and I'm just gonna add it right to our mixture there. So let's just kind of get that nicely mixed. I'm gonna scrape down the sides of our bowl the best I can. Sometimes the marshmallow fluff makes it a little difficult to get it off the sides of the bowl, but we're just gonna do the best we can. And there's that. Now I'm gonna be brave, and I am going to add all of our confectioner's sugar at once, but you'll see I'm gonna cover us up with a towel so that we don't have a cloud dust of sugar once the mixer turns on. We have enough of a cloud dust as I put it in the bowl. But honest to goodness, it makes a little less mess this way, trust me. All right, so we're gonna get that down. I'm gonna take a kitchen towel and cover us up. I'm gonna move our whoopie pies out of the way just in case. And, and you just kind of hold it all down and turn it on the lowest setting just to start to get it incorporated. And I know you guys can't see it at this point, but trust me, it's better this way that you just see the towel versus a huge cloud dust of confectioner's sugar. So I'm gonna take a peek, and I've taken peeks before, so you can almost hear where the mixer starts to work a little harder. Then I know at least our sugar's getting incorporated versus me lifting the towel too soon. Yep, we're looking good. So I've done that before, and I've made just as big as mess that way as the other way. But here you see, we're getting nicely mixed up. It doesn't take much. I'm gonna add my pinch of salt. Get that mixed in. I wanna stop it and just scrape down the sides one more time to make sure that we're getting as much fully mixed in as possible. It is really looking good, you guys. So see the texture, it's pretty firm. For our whoopie pies, we do want it somewhat firm because when you bite down into the whoopie pie, you don't want your marshmallow filling to go like all over the place. But having said that, I think we can make it just a little more creamy than what it is. So I'm gonna start with like just maybe a teaspoonful of milk. It's always easier to add more milk than it is to take it out. So that's why I'm only starting with a little bit. Get that mixed up. Yeah, it's loosening up. You don't want it so stiff that you can't get it out of your piping bag, or you're working so hard to get it out of your bag that it's a problem. So that's looking really good. And I'm gonna scrape us off our paddle here. And let's take it off. Let's just get it off the mixer. Makes it a little bit easier to try and get this all out. And then I'm going to put this lovely filling into a piping bag. But if you don't have a piping bag, you can use, a Ziploc bag, or you don't have to use a bag at all. I mean, you can just take a knife and fill your whoopie pies. All right, so here we're gonna scrape that down, and I have here ready for us. I took a piping bag and I just folded it over a cup so it gives it some stability while I'm filling it. That way I don't have to have one hand with my piping bag and one hand with my filling and just make a huge mess. And I also am going to switch spatulas because this little one makes it a whole lot easier to get this sticky marshmallow filling in. But I just kind of take as much as I can get on my spatula here and just really carefully push it into the bag. And then I come up the side so that it comes off of the spatula relatively easy. And I'm not gonna fill this to the brim, because the more you fill your piping bag, the harder it can be to squeeze the filling out. And we don't want to make this any more difficult or strenuous than it needs to be. So here we have it in our bag. I'm gonna just kind of squeeze the top and push it down. I don't have a piping tip on here. I don't need a piping tip. I'm just going to get it as far down as possible. I recommend, even though I don't have one right now, but I recommend like putting a little clip or something at the edge of your bag, because so many times you think, oh, I'm going to hold this together. I'm not going to let it go. The icing isn't going to fall out that end. But then something comes up, you get distracted, and lo and behold, you have this mess of icing and filling on the one end and nothing coming out of your tip. So we've got that going, and then you want to just snip. It doesn't need to be a small one because all we're doing is filling. So you're going to snip the end of the bag. But the other tip too is snip the end of the bag away from whatever it is that you're filling, because you don't want to find an icing tip bag in your filling. In any of your whoopie pies, that would not be cool. All right, so now we're going to fill these guys. And you see, I've got them laid out here. When I was taking them off of the tray, I tried to line them up equal sizes, because one end is going to be the bottom and the other one's going to be the top, and so we want them kind of to be equal sizes, if at all possible. All of them are a little bit different in size, and that's okay, but we just want to get it as close as possible. So now you just take one of the whoopie pies, this is going to be the bottom, and we're going to squeeze our filling. I like a lot of filling. So see, I should have used a clip, you guys, but that's all right. And honestly, it's easier sometimes too. Just leave it on the tray, fill it up, and then you take your top and voila, just press it down gently, and there you have it. It's pretty easy. Let's go ahead and just do these quickly. So as you, I'm sure, have figured out by now, however many whoopie pies come out of the oven, that is going to be, or I should say not whoopie pies, but just the cakes. So if you have, 12, 24, however many whoopie pies, you're actually going to have half of that number by the time you fill them, right? Because everyone gets a top and a bottom. So here, let's quit talking and just do this quickly. They go really quick in terms of filling. And then, if you guys have watched any of my other videos, you know, even though this is delicious as it is and perfectly presentable, I've of course got a little decoration that I'm going to put on the top. So here we have our cute little whoopie pies, but to put them over the top, as I like to do, what I have here, I'll do them here, these are marshmallow fondant, little flowers, and little marshmallow fondant leaves. And so every whoopie pie is going to get a flower and a leaf. And I'm just taking a little bit and putting it on the top, a little bit of the filling, because this will be what helps our flowers to stick. There we go. And we just take a flower and a leaf, and voila, there you have it. I'll do one more, and then we'll finish these up and get ready to plate it and give it a taste. And don't worry about that little extra filling. No one's going to say, ew, I don't want that extra filling. So there you guys go. Our delightful, darling little sweet potato whoopie pies. Let me plate them up and we'll come back and give them a taste. So before we taste, if you like what you watched today, just subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and why don't you comment about what you might like to see me make next. Also, if you are looking at the 3-tiered cake stand, we've got another video showing you how to make one of these darling little 3-tiered cake stands. So with that, no further ado, let's give it a taste. So just looking at it, you can see that it's just a cute little sized bite of goodness. Here we go. Really, really good. If you see the inside, if you can see that at all, you guys, the cake part is filled with sweet potato. You can see the little sweet potato bits. It's not overly sweet because the marshmallow buttercream filling just kind of picks it up and brings a creaminess and sweetness to it. It is absolutely delicious. I really hope you try this recipe, and I also hope you enjoy. See you next time.